Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the Manager Challenge May 2021 retrospective. Really appreciate you all joining this call. And I thought it would be great to come together synchronously to talk about any feedback about the overall experience, any tips for L&D moving forward. As I reiterate in this program a couple of times, GitLab's really invested in building a robust management training capability, as well as for aspiring managers as well. So awesome feedback in the async survey. That was really amazing. Really appreciate all of that, but totally, wanted to provide this forum for you all. We can make this as open as possible. Definitely don't hold anything back.
Well, I'll start by saying thank you, Josh. I thought you did an amazing job of conducting this in a way that's very in line with GitLab's values. The async options for even the live learning sessions were great to have the flexibility to do that. The optionality to have, one time slot or the other was really, really good. And I feel like, the cohort sizing, we're pretty light on attendance today, but I feel like generally speaking, the cohort was well sized for, sort of a split in time zones. And I'm, Mountain Time, so either time zone worked really well for me, which is a real privilege. But as an aspiring manager myself, I'll say I thought you did an amazing job of creating a safe space for all attendees, even those without, management experience to draw from. And from a value point of view, I really enjoyed, my peers and managers at GitLab sharing, in the most vulnerable sense, right? Challenges that they were dealing with and insights that they had. And it's special to see the coaching that managers were getting from other managers. I attended that coaching session that L&D ran a couple of months ago, and we actually overlapped during the 2-week program here with some of that, mentoring versus coaching in the top level. It's really hard to construct questions that are, coming from a coaching mindset, and to watch, Jeff's peers ask him questions that were definitely, at that level, and then try to do it myself was a real eye opener. So super enjoyed the program. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you joining. We wanted to keep it open to aspiring managers, folks that want to get into people management, and what better way than to actually learn from other managers.
And I think even if you're not, convinced that that's the right path, this is not a bad way to get a little insight into the challenges that management brings, people management specifically. So yeah, I think I would encourage, if there were peers of mine that were curious about what path they should take, whether it's IC or people manager, it's a good way to get some insight into. And it's also kind of fun because it overloads your calendar a bit for a short period of time. And I think that's a challenge that managers deal with. Not to say that ICs don't have that same challenge, but I feel like, if your week is automatically filled with, a bunch of one-on-ones, your time is precious, right? So knowing how to invest is important.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, you might do this challenge and think you want to do people management, and then you realize, well, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay on the IC track for a little longer. Awesome. Thanks for that, Jamie.
I echo everything Jamie said. He articulated that really well. I will add 2 points that kind of key on the last thing he just said, which is, given that this is a retrospective, like Jamie basically just uncovered a new marketing angle for this, which is IC should do it for a peek into a manager's life. I don't think that's not how it was marketed when I saw it. And it wasn't one of the perks of doing it when I saw it. Now that's just a sample size of one, but I think that could be very compelling. For example, I've already recommended to my directs that they should get in one of these, but I haven't said it in a way that like what Jamie just said. I feel like from their perspective, that could be a much more compelling reason to do it.
Yeah, that's great feedback. I think I need to make some updates to our handbook page just to make it more apparent that it's open to everybody. And do you think it makes sense for aspire managers to do it with current managers or to have a separate program for aspiring managers?
Man, I think you could experiment with both. My gut opinion on that is I liked having the mix because it creates this necessary friction of each party giving each other feedback from their current position. And I feel that that builds empathy. It expands your world. I mean, this is a case in point example. What Jamie just said, I'm in the room. Like now I have that perspective that I wouldn't have had if he had only shared that with his immediate peers. The other piece of feedback I was going to mention on the, it overloads your calendar for 2 weeks. I also think that's a feature, not a bug. And what I mean by that is I have found that L&D is one of those things that doesn't happen unless it's forced, almost like PTO. This is why I recommend pre-booking PTO. I just have like random weeks throughout the year proactively blocked. I have no idea if I'm actually going to use it or not, but I just go ahead and do it so that it's the top priority. And I feel like one of the features of this program is like, hey, if you're overloaded with meetings, we're going to give Josh and team the ability to actually push all of this to your calendar and it will be priority number one. And now you have a permission slip to not do all of that stuff that's been overloading your week. I think that's a feature, not a bug.
I like that. I really like that. Yeah, I know some of the feedback was, this kind of like overpowers your email as well with all the notifications and the issues, but I mean, that's life.
No,
as a
and
manager,
from
right?
the marketing angle, it's like the point here isn't for all of these L&D or these manager challenge sessions to show up and they're an addition to what you're doing. They become the priority. And so now you can share this issue with your manager and your team and say, hey, look, for these 2 weeks, this is why I'm going to be less present in these other meetings. And I think that's really powerful. I think by default, we're an ambitious group. We're going to try to do the manager challenge and all of our work. Maybe we should be more prescriptive that this is the top priority. I think where you could pull learnings from is the CEO Shadow program. That program is super good about saying, I think it actually directly says you should basically consider yourself on vacation while you're in this program. Now, I don't know if the manager challenge is so demanding that it needs that, but there's something about it, that mentality of, look, I'm out. This is my focus.
I love that. I really like that advice because it's like, if we're, I come from like more of a in-person office environment before GitLab. And it's like, if I'm leading trainings, we're going to book a conference room for a day or two. You're going to get away from your job. You're going to close everything out and you're going to be totally focused on this training for this period of time. And that's really tough to do at GitLab because we're constantly distracted. I really like that focus.
It's a great point. You're absolutely right. When I've done in-person trainings, day and a half, 2 days, that's all you do. And I remember like the exhilaration of being able to decline meetings, thinking, nope, I'm going to be in this room. There's going to be food there. It's going to be awesome. But an all remote setting gives you the opportunity to try to multitask. And that's not always the most helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. One question for you all, I should put in the agenda and then feel free to give me more points as well. But did you find that maybe in future iterations, having more sync sessions would help? Like if, during the 2 weeks, maybe like 2 sync sessions a week, that was some feedback I received in the survey. It was like, it would be great to have more of these breakout sessions with folks.
I would say so. So some of the feedback I was going to give here was that I saw 3 main benefit. I don't know. I saw three things I found myself getting out of this program, I guess. One was just carving out the time to read through those handbook links and take the LinkedIn learning and just kind of absorb information. 2 is just the opportunity to network with other managers. I feel like I have my constellation of people I work with regularly, but this expanded that group, which I thought was really valuable, and other ICs across the company as well, not just managers. And then lastly was the coaching and just kind of creating that friction and getting that feedback and interacting with other managers and kind of broadening my perspective. And I think from that from that sense, I felt like that's what I felt short on, I guess, is the being able to interact with other people and challenge my viewpoint and really think through complex, challenging problems. So from my perspective, I would love to see more of that, but that might also just be where I'm at in my learning journey for this topic.
I think it really.
I would certainly
Go
echo
ahead.
that. Sorry to cut you off, Josh. I think that opportunity to network with other managers and like when I think back to the 2 weeks, yes, definitely the points 1 and 2, Jeff, you mentioned were valuable, but for me, the most outsized, sort of biggest squeeze I got out of this was that hour and a half we spent in a group. And that was, I think doing that, maybe twice a week would be good. I think you'd want to be careful to emphasize that or plan the live learning session in a way that did not absolutely demand the attendees were up to date with the daily challenges, right? You'd want to make that very clear. Don't feel like you have to skip this or do it async later if you haven't, done prerequisites 1, 2, and 3. This is it's a session where maybe prerequisite 1 would be valuable, but if you haven't got it, don't worry. Don't defer this as an async task to, get done later. Join it if the time zone works and have the dual time zone slots. I think emphasizing that would be important.
Yeah, I think it threads really nicely into Darren's earlier point, just like making this more like the CEO shadow program, where like, hey, this is your focus for these 2 weeks. Yeah, you can do other work; it's not going to be as demanding, but if you want to participate, really attend the sessions, do the async activities, and block your calendar.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So my initial reaction to that was, no, don't add another sync session. But then as I'm hearing those answers, and the more I think about that, if you went full bore and positioned this more as a CEO shadow type thing instead of a layer on top of your job, then I think my answer changes. If it becomes a thing, like a significant meaty thing, then I would say, like, why not do a sync session every day or every other day? And I think there could be some real collective power. Like, imagine if you had 20 people, managers and aspiring managers, essentially in the CEO shadow program at the same time. That's a significant enough amount of people that it's going to cause disruption, and people are going to pay attention to like, oh, whoa, L&D matters. Like our whole team is like slowing our roll just a bit because these people are prioritizing something. And then that's going to send a signal that they should consider prioritizing it too. This happened with me in the CEO shadow program. I took it, my peers around me saw it, and I don't know, probably 12 people in marketing since me have done it because it sends a signal, it sends a message. So there could be something powerful in substantiating the program as a whole more to enable those added sync sessions. One other piece of feedback on the sync sessions, I agree that they were massively impactful. And here's one of the reasons I'm going to offer up why. It's kind of like micro coffee chats with 19 people in an incredibly distilled, efficient way where everyone is already in a vulnerable place and you're learning from each other. It's like, whoa, that would have taken a full year to do 19 coffee chats, but I just did it in an hour and a half. That's really, really powerful. And it was so powerful for me that I intentionally joined the morning session of one and the evening session with the other so that I could get it with both groups of people. I intentionally did that. I did one and I was like, oh, I got to see if it's this good in the other session too. And so if you had more of those sessions, it would be easier to catch both cohorts, if you will.
I love that. Yeah,
Let me offer one more thing.
Yeah.
I loved the async daily challenges. I thought they were the right size of work for async. The size of work in the sync sessions, if I had missed them, I don't think I would have gone back and done them async.
Mm-hmm.
It was too big for async. It really benefited from the sync group. Like when I saw people doing the sync day sessions async, I was like, massive kudos for you for carving out time to do that, because that was a hard challenge with other people. And so there's that. If you do more of those sync session days, you might want to guard for less people doing it async if they can't make the session.
Completely agree. Yeah, I think the reason I designed it for the async heavy was just to reinforce, that GitLab self-paced, self-learning sort of direction that we have. I think it's one of our sub values actually. But I think there's so much value in the sync activities, just networking, meeting people cross-functionally that you normally wouldn't work with. I love the coffee chat statement there. I totally agree. I love that.
I agree with all of that. I think I would add also that it could be a question of audience also. Like I could see this maturing and evolving to the point where there's two different tracks, a more synchronous that's more focused on coaching, and maybe the intended audience is more existing manager heavy, and then the more async option where you're just absorbing information and learning and participating. Async is more, I see, just getting comfortable with the concepts focused.
That's such a boring solution, Jeff. Like we're in here trying to evolve this one program. Like we can do more than that. In fact, I look at the one I just went through, and I think that could be I don't know, stage 1. And then the more sync heavy one could be stage 2 that you opt into, or maybe you have to do stage 1 before you can do stage 2. Because there might be some people that take stage 1, like an IC, and they're like, yep, don't want to be a manager. Definitely not doing stage 2. And then there could be some people that do this and they're like, I got to have more. Now that I'm plugged in, let's do a deeper one. Before we get too far off the async topic, Josh, I did want to give you this feedback.
Sure.
Don't skew too far away from the async. And I guess this kind of dovetails into why 2 stages may be nice, because the outputs of those were so easy to share with my directs. So easy. It's all written down. So in our team syncs and our team one-on-ones, I could just put like specific links to comments. I'm like, whoa, check out what this person said here. This is so enlightening. That's harder to do and have context around it coming out of a sync session. And my directs really appreciated it. They really appreciated that during the week, as I was investing time in this, I was sending them links here and there to various comments from people that I don't think would have been as well documented if it weren't an async first challenge.
Yeah, that's great. And that was my intention. It's like you have this epic now with all of this great content. You can bookmark it, reflect back on your career. If you're stumbling, go back to some of those answers, maybe set up a coffee chat with somebody in the cohort. That's the beauty of the async issues. It's always there.
You also remember who said what. Like, who had that red flag warning? I was like, oh, it was Megan. And then that allows you to set up a coffee chat or do additional things or whatever. If you don't document it, it's very different. You're like, well, cohort 2 did. And you just like blast everyone with, who said this?
Yeah. No, I mean, this is amazing feedback. It's really, I got a lot of work to do, but I'm excited to dive into this and pump out the next iteration.
One more thing I'll share that I really enjoyed that I thought was great was as part of some of those async daily challenges, I definitely agree with what Darren was sharing, how they were very right sized. They were kind of the perfect amount of time. Was the fact that somebody had clearly taken the time to go through LinkedIn Live Learning or LinkedIn Learning courses. And rather than link to the whole course and be like, here, take this 30-minute course, there was a specific deep link to like a 3-minute piece of that course, where it was obvious to me that somebody had taken the time to say, that's the real golden nugget here in this course. Let me save you the time of, all the boilerplate at the beginning and all the other stuff at the end. And it was like 3 minutes. And I thought, wow, like that was such I really treasured that. So thank you to you or whomever had ferreted out those really valuable pieces of those courses. That was great.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jamie. Yeah, a big part of L&D's role is content creation, but probably more curation. We have so much stuff in the handbook and LinkedIn Learning. It's curating is a big focus area for us.
That's a great point, Jamie. I was amazed every time I landed on one of those 2. It was like, oh man, they combed through like 7 years of content, maybe more, to get me to this 3 minutes. I really appreciated it. Josh, I want to mention one thing on the async front. I don't know if it was intentional, but every time it happened, I deeply appreciated it. It felt like you launched the async day challenge as Australia and APAC were waking up. And I was like, That is so incredibly thoughtful and inclusive, because you for sure are not in that time zone. So it was like the day one challenge happened day one APAC. It was actually the day before evening where we live. And I'm like, you're taking like, that's an extra step on your part. And so I don't know if that was intentional, but kudos if it was. I thought that was very inclusive, that the day one started with when days started in the world, not where you were. So thanks for doing that. Worked out well for me too, because I like to work in the evening. So in a few of those instances, I was like, holy cow, I just shortcutted a whole day by doing this the night before.
Yeah, I don't sleep much, and that's not because of GitLab. I wake up super early and I go to bed late, so it works out. But yeah,
Don't
definitely
worry,
that
this,
was intentional.
sorry to cut you off, Josh. I was going to make a joke about, don't worry, this impending baby of yours is going to solve that. You'll sleep you'll sleep at any time. I'm sure Darren can relate.
Yeah, I feel ready.
I agree with all of that. I think that was fantastically done. I have one more piece of feedback that doesn't really fit in with anything we've been talking about, but
Yeah,
I would love for future iterations to see kind of a what's next, to close it up, to sum it up, to say, here's some books that some of these concepts were derived out of, if you want to learn more on these topics, or, we recommend setting up coffee chats with people that resonate with you, or something. And some of that's on us, and we can absolutely do that. But it'd be nice to just have that kind of transition out the next steps.
yeah, that's great feedback. Maybe like 2 months later, kind of check in, May manager challenge, get together. Like, how's everything going? Let's revisit some of these topics.
I like that.
Yeah, great idea, Jeff.
Here's something I'm thinking through out loud. So this might not be a great idea. I'm thinking about how we try to say thanks and how we try to add visibility to people. What if at the end of every, maybe the end of every cohort's too much, but maybe the end of every month, so this is like 12 times a year, there's like a nugget you put together with the tags of people who went through the program and some key pieces of positive feedback, some key pieces of constructive feedback, and maybe some sort of anecdote or takeaway or things that were learned. And then it's published in the e-group channel. And the reason to say this is I want it to continue to signal that L&D is not something you do around the fringes of your job. It is your job. Just like PTO isn't something you take just when you happen to not have a lot of work. No, you just do it, and work's going to just deal with it. And I know that would create more work for you. It's like you have this continual retrospective or packaging up. But I think like what I'll offer here is, if you're already doing that for your group conversation, for example, if you're already collecting some of this because for some other task, then just repurpose it and put it in the e-group channel or somewhere, so that the executive team is constantly reminded, like, here are people that are investing in L&D. Here are some of the key things that we're talking about. And it gives you this opportunity to remind, you could also share it in the managers channel, for example, remind managers that this should be a part of what you're thinking through in OKRs. Like, make sure that you don't OKR your team to the point where they can't fit something like this in. We went the complete opposite direction. All of our corporate marketing team now has an OKR that we all have to have a fully complete career development plan by the end of next quarter. I don't know if every organization would do that, but I'm telling you, it went over well for our team. We're like, now we're going to be measured on this, and we're making a deliberate decision to do that. And I feel like, I don't know, man, you might get bonus participation for people that know that at the end of it, this might be the only time e-group sees their handle all year. That could be a really big deal for them in terms of recognition.
I love that. I'm going to do that next week. When I send the certifications out, I gave everybody this week to catch up if they needed it. And I'm going to post like a message in the e-group with everybody tagged that participated, like, hey, this is what we did. I'm going to put the profiles there. This is what we covered. Here's the epic. as like a first step. It's a great idea, Darren.
Yeah.
I know we're at time, so I just want to be cognizant of that. But Darren, if you just when you say like just reminders to the e-group, would it just be like messages in their Slack channel, just like, hey, last month we did the manager challenge on this topic, like just asking a little bit more clarity around that?
Yeah, and I can help you think that through. I was just thinking of like at the end of every month, like here's what the May Manager Challenges overview. Like here's the participants, here's some anecdotes of lessons learned, things we did well, things that we're working on for next iteration. We appreciate you making L&D a priority in your teams. And that's kind of it. That's kind of it. I just want that piece at the end. It's like reminder, L&D is important for your teams. And I want them to cascade, because this stuff starts at the top. You know, if my manager didn't put this in the OKR, I might feel less comfortable saying, I'm taking 2 weeks to do this. And you're really going to need that top-down support if you do a stage 2 where this feels more like a CEO shadow program, where people are more disengaged from their job. You're going to need that support. And this is going to get tougher on the road to becoming a public company, because it's just going to feel like, oh, it's an afterthought. We can do this later. We can learn later.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think if you look at engagement survey scores around growth and development, it's like the second lowest category for GitLab. So this is top of mind for team members. Cool. Well, I don't want to keep you all here any longer. This was amazing feedback. I'm going to iterate on all of it. I'm going to run another one in October. If you want to join that one, I'll give priority to the new people, but definitely add you to the wait list if you want to rejoin. And really appreciate you all participating and coming here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Josh,
Yeah, man. Great stuff. Thanks all for contributing.
See you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie, Jeff, Darren. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah, dude, that was great. That was awesome. Good
Awesome.
stuff. We got some good folks with good ideas.